Serpens, the Cosmic Serpent, a journey through ancient wisdom, celestial mysteries, and the eternal symbol of transformation. In the quiet hours of a summer evening, when the sky deepens from azure to indigo and the first stars begin their nightly appearance, there exists a moment of transition that invites contemplation. This is the hour when the celestial sphere reveals patterns that have guided human imagination for thousands of years, when the darkness becomes not an absence, but a canvas upon which the universe paints its ancient story. Tonight, we turn our attention to one of the most unusual and symbolically rich constellations in the entire night sky, a pattern that speaks to humanity's oldest fears and deepest wisdom, a celestial figure that bridges the earthly and the divine. This is Serpens, the Serpent, the only constellation in the modern sky divided into two separate parts, yet unified by a single mythological narrative and a single astronomical designation. Serpens occupies a distinctive place among the 88 officially recognized constellations. Unlike any other constellation, it exists in two separate sections with another constellation, Ophiuchus the Serpent Bearer, positioned between them. The western portion is called Serpens Caput, meaning the serpent's head, while the eastern portion is known as Serpens Cauda, the serpent's tail. Together, these two sections span a considerable area of the celestial sphere, winding through the rich star fields of the summer Milky Way, visible from both northern and southern hemispheres during the months of June, July, and August, when the constellation reaches its highest point in the evening sky. To locate Serpens, one must first find the distinctive pattern of Ophiuchus, that large constellation representing a man holding a serpent, situated between the bright stars of the summer triangle above and the prominent curve of Scorpius below. The serpent's head lies to the west of Ophiuchus, marked by a small cluster of stars forming a distinctive triangular or arrowhead shape. The serpent's tail extends to the east, a fainter line of stars that stretches toward the constellation Aquila. This divided nature makes Serpens unique among the constellations, a celestial body split yet unified, separated yet connected through the figure that holds it. The symbolism of the serpent appears in virtually every human culture throughout recorded history and likely extends back into prehistoric times. Serpents have represented wisdom and danger, healing and poison, death and rebirth, the earth and the underworld, chaos and order. This multiplicity of meanings reflects the profound impact that snakes have had on human consciousness and evolution. Our primate ancestors developed keen visual systems partially in response to the threat posed by venomous serpents, and some researchers suggest that the human capacity for symbolic thought may be linked to our evolutionary relationship with these creatures. The serpent is thus embedded deep in the human psyche, carrying layers of meaning that transcend any single culture or time period. In the Greek mythology most commonly associated with the constellation Serpens, the serpent belongs to Asclepius, the god of medicine and healing. Asclepius was the son of Apollo, god of light, music, prophecy, and healing, and the mortal woman Coronis. The story of Asclepius's birth involves tragedy and divine intervention, themes that run throughout Greek mythology and speak to the Greeks' understanding of the relationship between mortals and immortals, between fate and choice, between knowledge and hubris. According to the myth, Coronis was pregnant with Apollo's child when she fell in love with a mortal man named Ischys. A white crow, serving as Apollo's informant, reported this infidelity to the god. In his rage and grief, Apollo transformed the crow's feathers from white to black as punishment for bringing bad news, establishing the crow's dark plumage that we see today. Apollo then asked his sister Artemis, goddess of the hunt, to kill Coronis with her arrows. As Coronis lay dying on her funeral pyre, Apollo was overcome with remorse and rescued his unborn son from her womb, performing what may be mythology's first recorded caesarean section. He brought the infant to the wise centaur Chiron, who raised the child and taught him the arts of medicine and healing. Asclepius became the greatest healer in Greek mythology, mastering not only the treatment of disease and injury, but eventually learning to resurrect the dead. He received knowledge from many sources, including the goddess Athena, who gave him vials containing the blood of the Gorgon Medusa. The blood from the left side of Medusa's body was a deadly poison, while blood from the right side could restore life to the dead. This duality, the close relationship between poison and cure, death and life, runs throughout the mythology of healing and finds its perfect symbol in the serpent. The serpent became Asclepius's primary symbol because of an event that occurred during his training. According to various ancient sources, Asclepius was summoned to the palace of King Minos of Crete to resurrect his dead son Glaucus. As Asclepius stood contemplating the body, a serpent slithered into the room. Asclepius killed it with his staff. Moments later, another serpent appeared carrying an herb in its mouth. This second serpent placed the herb on the body of the first serpent, which immediately returned to life. Observing this, Asclepius used the same herb to resurrect Glaucus. From this moment, the serpent became associated with healing wisdom, with knowledge of the plants and substances that could cure disease and even reverse death. The staff of Asclepius, a single serpent coiled around a wooden rod, became the primary symbol of medicine and healing in ancient Greece and remains so today in many parts of the world. Temples dedicated to Asclepius, called Asclepia, were established throughout the Greek world. These temple complexes functioned as healing sanctuaries where the sick and injured would come seeking cures. The treatments combined religious ritual, including sleeping in special chambers where patients hoped to receive healing dreams from the god, with practical medical care including herbal remedies, surgery, diet, and exercise. Non-venomous snakes were kept at these temples and allowed to roam freely, their presence considered sacred and beneficial to healing. The fame and power of Asclepius grew until he became so skilled that he routinely brought the dead back to life. This ability disturbed the natural order and angered Hades, god of the underworld, who complained to Zeus that Asclepius was depopulating his realm. Zeus, concerned about the disruption of the fundamental boundary between life and death, struck Asclepius down with a thunderbolt. However, in recognition of Asclepius's contributions to humanity and his divine parentage, Zeus placed him among the stars as the constellation Ophiuchus, eternally holding the serpent that represents his healing wisdom. This myth carries profound meanings that resonated throughout ancient Greek culture. Asclepius represents the human aspiration to overcome suffering and death through knowledge and skill. His mastery of medicine pushed against the boundaries that separate mortals from immortals, that distinguish human from divine power. Yet his death by Zeus's thunderbolt also represents the limits that must be respected, the recognition that certain boundaries should not be crossed regardless of one's skill or good intentions. The Greeks understood that while healing and the relief of suffering were noble pursuits, death itself was a fundamental aspect of existence that could not and perhaps should not be completely overcome. The serpent in this mythology symbolizes the dual nature of medical knowledge itself. Serpent venom can kill, yet properly understood and administered, venom and other natural toxins can heal. The same plant can be food or poison depending on dose and preparation. Medical knowledge requires understanding these dualities, navigating between cure and harm, knowing when to intervene and when to accept natural processes. The image of the serpent, dangerous yet wise, poisonous yet healing, perfectly captures this essential tension in the practice of medicine. Before the Greeks associated this constellation with Asclepius and his serpent, earlier civilizations recognized serpent patterns in this region of the sky. The Babylonians, whose astronomical records extend back to the 2nd millennium before the Common Era, identified various serpent constellations in their star catalogues. The constellation they called Bashmu, the venomous snake, occupied a position in the sky that may correspond partially to the region we now call Serpens. Babylonian astronomy influenced Greek astronomy significantly through cultural transmission over many centuries, so the Greek identification of a serpent in this area likely had Mesopotamian precedents. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, serpents played complex and contradictory roles. The cobra goddess Wadjet protected the pharaoh and appeared as the Uraeus, the rearing cobra on the royal crown. The great serpent Apophis represented chaos and threatened to devour the sun god Ra during his nightly journey through the underworld. Yet another serpent, Mehen, coiled protectively around Ra's solar bark. These multiple serpent figures in Egyptian mythology reflect the same duality we find in Greek and other mythological traditions. The serpent as both threat and protector, as both chaos and guardian of order. The serpent's association with wisdom and forbidden knowledge appears most famously in the biblical story of the Garden of Eden, where a serpent tempts Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This narrative, originating in ancient Near Eastern traditions, presents the serpent as cunning and deceptive, offering knowledge that leads to humanity's fall from innocent grace. Yet the serpent's promise proves true. Eating the fruit does grant knowledge that makes humans more godlike, able to distinguish good from evil. This ambiguity, whether the serpent is villain or liberator, whether the knowledge it offers is curse or gift, has been debated by theologians and philosophers for millennia. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, serpent beings called Nagas are associated with water, fertility, and spiritual wisdom. The Buddha is often depicted meditating under the protection of a great serpent king named Mukalinda, whose expanded hood shields the Buddha from rain. In Hindu mythology, the god Vishnu rests on the cosmic serpent Ananta, or Shesha, who floats on the primordial ocean and whose coils support all of creation. The serpent Kundalini, coiled at the base of the spine in yogic philosophy, represents dormant spiritual energy that when awakened rises through the chakras toward enlightenment. These cross-cultural serpent symbols share common themes. The serpent dwells in liminal spaces between different realms, between earth and water, between conscious and unconscious, between mortal and divine. The serpent undergoes transformation through shedding its skin, emerging renewed, thus becoming a natural symbol for death and rebirth, for the cyclical nature of existence. The serpent moves close to the earth, yet can also climb into trees or through water, navigating multiple domains with grace and power. These characteristics made the serpent a perfect symbol for forces and processes that transcend ordinary categories, for wisdom that bridges different kinds of knowledge, for powers that operate at the boundaries of human understanding. The stars that form the constellation Serpens, when examined through the instruments of modern astronomy, reveal themselves to be far more complex and fascinating than ancient observers could have imagined. The brightest star in Serpens Caput, the serpent's head, is Alpha Serpentis, traditionally called Unukalhai. This name derives from Arabic, meaning the serpent's neck, indicating the star's position in the traditional visualization of the constellation. Unukalhai is located approximately 73 light-years from Earth, meaning the light we see from this star tonight began its journey toward us in the early 1950s, during the Cold War era when humanity first developed hydrogen bombs and began the space age. Unukalhai is a giant star, having exhausted the hydrogen fuel in its core and evolved off the main sequence to begin burning hydrogen in a shell around an inert helium core. The star has expanded to approximately 15 times the diameter of our Sun and shines with approximately 70 times our Sun's luminosity. Its surface temperature of approximately 2,500 degrees Celsius gives it an orange hue visible to careful observers. Giant stars like Unukalhai represent a phase in stellar evolution that all medium-mass stars, including our Sun, will eventually experience billions of years from now. In Serpens Cauda, the serpent's tail, the brightest star is Theta Serpentis, though it is fainter than Unukalhai. Theta Serpentis is actually a binary star system, two stars orbiting their common center of mass, located approximately 132 light-years from Earth. The two components can be resolved through modest amateur telescopes, making this an attractive target for observers interested in double stars. The orbital period of this binary system is estimated to be approximately 14,000 years, an immense timescale compared to human history, yet brief on cosmic scales. The division of Serpens into two parts creates an interesting astronomical situation. While the constellation is treated as a single entity for cataloging purposes, observers must look in two different directions to see the complete figure, with Ophiuchus occupying the central position. This arrangement reflects the Greek mythological narrative of Asclepius holding the serpent, with the healer's body separating the creature into head and tail. From a modern astronomical perspective, the stars in Serpens Caput and Serpens Cauda have no physical connection to each other or to the stars in Ophiuchus. They are at vastly different distances, their apparent proximity in the sky being purely a projection effect as viewed from Earth's particular location in space. One of the most remarkable deep sky objects in Serpens is the Eagle Nebula, catalogued as Messier 16, located in Serpens Cauda. This nebula is a vast region of star formation, a molecular cloud where new stars are being born from collapsing knots of gas and dust. The Eagle Nebula lies approximately 7,000 light-years from Earth, so far away that the light we receive from it tonight left the nebula around 5,000 years before the Common Era, when human civilization was just beginning to develop writing and complex urban societies. The Eagle Nebula became famous in 1995 when the Hubble Space Telescope captured the iconic image of the pillars of creation, towering columns of molecular hydrogen and dust within the nebula where stars are forming. These pillars, several light-years in length, are being sculpted by intense ultraviolet radiation from young, hot stars nearby. The radiation erodes the less dense portions of the cloud while denser regions resist, creating the pillar-like structures. At the tips, and within the dense regions of these pillars, new stars are condensing from the surrounding material, hidden from visible light by thick dust but observable in infrared wavelengths. The process of star formation observed in the Eagle Nebula and similar regions demonstrates the dynamic and creative nature of the cosmos. Stars are not eternal fixtures, but are born, live, and die, with each generation of stars contributing to the chemical evolution of the galaxy. The first generation of stars formed from nearly pure hydrogen and helium, the only elements created in significant quantities in the Big Bang. These massive early stars synthesized heavier elements through nuclear fusion in their cores, and dispersed these elements through supernova explosions when they died. Subsequent generations of stars formed from material enriched with these heavier elements, eventually leading to stars like our Sun that have planetary systems containing rocky planets where heavy elements predominate. The Eagle Nebula also contains a cluster of young stars, approximately 2 million years old, which is extremely young on cosmic timescales. These stars are still in the early phases of their lives, still surrounded by remnants of the molecular cloud from which they formed. Some of these stars likely have protoplanetary disks, rings of gas and dust orbiting the young stars within which planets may be forming. The study of such star-forming regions provides crucial insights into how planetary systems, including our own solar system, came into existence approximately 4.6 billion years ago. Another notable object in Serpens Caput is the Serpens Sextet, a group of galaxies that appears to contain 6 members but actually consists of 5 galaxies in a tight grouping with a 6th galaxy that is actually in the background at a much greater distance. Merely aligned by chance from our perspective, the 5 galaxies in actual physical proximity are engaged in a slow gravitational dance that will eventually result in their merger into a single larger galaxy over hundreds of millions of years. Serpens Sextet lies approximately 190 million light-years from Earth, so the light we receive from it tonight shows these galaxies as they appeared during the Jurassic period on Earth, when dinosaurs dominated terrestrial ecosystems. The observation of interacting and merging galaxies has revealed that galactic collisions are a normal part of cosmic evolution. Our own Milky Way galaxy is on a collision course with the Andromeda galaxy, and the two will begin to merge in approximately 4.5 billion years. During galactic mergers, despite the dramatic name, actual collisions between stars are extremely rare because the distances between stars within galaxies are so vast. However, the gravitational interactions during galactic mergers trigger intense bursts of star formation, reshape galactic structures, and can feed supermassive black holes at galactic centers, creating active galactic nuclei that shine brightly across the electromagnetic spectrum. The constellation Serpens also contains numerous globular clusters, those ancient spherical collections of hundreds of thousands of stars bound together by gravity. Messier 5, one of the finest globular clusters visible in northern skies, lies within Serpens caput and can be seen through binoculars as a fuzzy patch of light. Through telescopes, this cluster resolves into countless individual stars, creating a spectacular sight. Messier 5 is located approximately 24,500 light-years from Earth and contains several 100,000 stars in a region only about 165 light-years across. The stars in this cluster are among the oldest in our galaxy, with ages estimated at approximately 13 billion years, formed when the universe itself was less than 1 billion years old. The study of globular clusters provides crucial information about the history and evolution of galaxies. These clusters orbit in the halos of galaxies, following elongated elliptical paths that take them far above and below the galactic disk. Their chemical compositions, with very low abundances of elements heavier than hydrogen and helium, indicate they formed early in galactic history before many generations of supernova had enriched the interstellar medium with heavy elements. The ages of globular clusters help establish lower limits on the age of the universe itself, since the universe must be at least as old as the oldest objects it contains. The ancient astronomers who first identified and named the constellation Serpens possessed none of the instruments or theoretical frameworks of modern astrophysics, yet their careful naked-eye observations established the foundation for all later astronomy. The Babylonian astronomers who recorded systematic observations of planetary motions, created mathematical models for predicting eclipses, and catalogued the positions of stars, made contributions that would influence astronomy for thousands of years. The Greek astronomers who inherited and built upon Babylonian knowledge added geometric models and physical theories that attempted to explain observed phenomena. Hipparchus of Nicaea, working in the 2nd century before the Common Era, created the first comprehensive star catalogue in the Greek astronomical tradition, listing approximately 850 stars with their positions and apparent brightnesses. He developed a magnitude system for classifying stellar brightness that, with modifications, is still used today. He discovered the precession of the equinoxes through careful comparison of his own observations with those recorded by earlier astronomers, demonstrating that the positions of celestial poles shift slowly over time in a cycle lasting approximately 26,000 years. Claudius Ptolemy, working in Alexandria in the 2nd century of the Common Era, synthesized earlier Greek astronomical knowledge into his great treatise The Almagest. This work catalogued 48 constellations, including Serpens, and provided coordinates and descriptions for approximately 1,000 stars. Ptolemy's geocentric model of the universe, with Earth at the center and all celestial bodies revolving around it through combinations of circular motions, represented the culmination of ancient Greek astronomy. Though we now know this model to be incorrect, it was sophisticated, mathematically rigorous, and could predict planetary positions with reasonable accuracy. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire, astronomical knowledge was largely lost in Europe but preserved and expanded in the Islamic world. Beginning in the 8th century, Islamic scholars translated Greek scientific works into Arabic and established observatories throughout the Islamic Caliphate. Astronomers such as al-Battani, al-Sufi, and al-Biruni made precise observations, corrected errors in Greek star catalogues, and developed improved mathematical techniques for astronomical calculations. The Arabic names for many stars, including Unukalhai in Serpens, reflect this period of Islamic astronomical achievement. The return of astronomical knowledge to Western Europe beginning in the 12th century, through translations of Arabic texts into Latin, helped spark the intellectual revival that led eventually to the scientific revolution. The recovery of ancient learning, combined with new observations and theoretical insights, gradually transformed human understanding of the cosmos. Nicolaus Copernicus proposed a heliocentric model placing the Sun at the center of the solar system. Johannes Kepler discovered that planetary orbits are elliptical rather than circular and identified mathematical laws describing planetary motion. Galileo Galilei made telescopic observations that provided evidence supporting the heliocentric model. Isaac Newton's development of universal gravitation and the laws of motion in the late 17th century provided a comprehensive physical framework for understanding celestial mechanics. Newton demonstrated that the same force that causes an apple to fall from a tree also governs the motion of the moon around Earth and planets around the Sun. This unification of terrestrial and celestial physics represented one of the greatest achievements in the history of science, showing that the entire universe operates according to comprehensible mathematical principles. Throughout these revolutionary changes in scientific understanding, the constellation Serpens remained a constant presence in the summer sky, its pattern unchanged on human timescales. The Serpent wound its way through the star fields of the Milky Way, held eternally by Ophiuchus the Healer, a celestial reminder of the ancient connection between serpents and healing wisdom. The mythological narrative persisted alongside the new scientific knowledge, demonstrating that these different ways of engaging with the cosmos could coexist and complement each other. The symbolism of the serpent in the constellation Serpens carries meanings that extend beyond the specific Greek myth of Asclepius. The serpent represents transformation and renewal through the natural process of shedding its skin. This biological fact made serpents powerful symbols for regeneration and immortality in numerous cultures. The serpent moves in a distinctive sinuous pattern, creating waves through its body that propel it forward, a movement that inspired both fascination and fear in human observers throughout history. In alchemical tradition, which flourished in medieval and Renaissance Europe, the serpent eating its own tail, called the Ouroboros, symbolized cyclical processes, eternal return, and the unity of opposites. The Ouroboros represented the idea that endings and beginnings are connected, that death leads to rebirth, that destruction and creation are aspects of a single process. This symbol appeared in various ancient traditions, including Egyptian and Greek texts, and was adopted by alchemists as representing the transformation of base metals into gold, understood not only literally, but as a metaphor for spiritual transformation. The caduceus, a winged staff with two serpents intertwined around it, is often confused with the staff of Asclepius, but is actually the symbol of Hermes, the messenger god who guided souls to the underworld and was associated with commerce and communication. The caduceus has been mistakenly adopted as a medical symbol by some organizations, particularly in the United States military medical services, though the single serpent staff of Asclepius is the more historically accurate symbol of medicine. This confusion illustrates how symbolic meanings can shift and merge over time, how different traditions influence each other, and how ancient symbols continue to evolve in meaning and application. The constellation Serpens, visible during summer evenings in the northern hemisphere, reaches its highest point in the sky around midnight in June. The serpent's head, Serpens caput, can be located by finding the distinctive keystone shape of Hercules and looking southward toward Ophiuchus. The small triangle of stars forming the serpent's head is not particularly prominent, but once located, it becomes a memorable pattern. The serpent's tail, Serpens cauda, extends eastward from Ophiuchus toward Aquila, marked by a line of faint stars that require dark skies to observe clearly. The Milky Way flows through this region of sky, providing a rich background of faint stars and nebulosity visible from dark locations. The summer Milky Way is particularly spectacular because when we look in this direction, we are looking toward the galactic center, toward the densest concentration of stars in our galaxy. The actual center of the Milky Way lies in the constellation Sagittarius, just south of Serpens, though it is hidden from optical observation by intervening dust clouds. Radio and infrared observations have revealed that a supermassive black hole with a mass approximately 4 million times that of our Sun resides at the galactic center. The process of observing the night sky, of learning to recognize constellations and navigate between celestial landmarks, represents a skill that humans have cultivated for tens of thousands of years. Archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric peoples tracked celestial motions and may have encoded astronomical knowledge in cave paintings, megalithic monuments, and portable artifacts. The alignment of structures like Stonehenge with solar and lunar positions demonstrates sophisticated astronomical observation and record-keeping dating back thousands of years before written history. The development of writing allowed astronomical knowledge to be recorded and transmitted with greater precision and reliability. The Babylonian astronomical texts inscribed on clay tablets, the Egyptian astronomical sealings in tombs and temples, the Chinese astronomical records kept continuously for millennia, all represent humanity's long endeavor to understand and predict celestial phenomena. This astronomical knowledge served practical purposes, enabling the creation of calendars for agricultural planning, navigation for trade and exploration, and timekeeping for coordinating social and religious activities. Yet astronomy also served deeper human needs, the desire to understand our place in the cosmos, to find meaning and pattern in existence, to connect ourselves to something larger than individual or even collective human experience. The stories told about the constellations, including the myth of Asclepius and the Serpent, provided frameworks for understanding the relationship between humans and the divine, between mortality and immortality, between ignorance and wisdom. These narratives addressed questions that science alone cannot fully answer, questions about value and purpose, about how to live and what makes a life meaningful. The figure of Asclepius, the healer who pushed against the boundaries of death and paid the ultimate price for his hubris, speaks to enduring tensions in medicine and in human existence more generally. How far should we go in using our knowledge and technology to extend life and prevent death? What constitutes natural death as opposed to preventable death? When does intervention become harmful rather than helpful? These questions, which the ancient Greeks explored through mythology, remain vital in contemporary medical ethics and in discussions about the use of life-extending technologies. The serpent in the Asclepius myth represents the knowledge that makes healing possible, knowledge that is powerful and dangerous, that must be used with wisdom and restraint. Medical knowledge includes understanding of poisons and their antidotes, of diseases and their cures, of the body's vulnerabilities and its remarkable capacity for healing when properly supported. The same pharmaceutical substances that cure disease can cause harm if misused. Surgery that saves lives also involves cutting and trauma. Radiation therapy that destroys cancer cells also damages healthy tissue. Medicine constantly navigates these dualities, these necessary trade-offs between intervention and harm. The modern medical profession continues to use the staff of Asclepius as its primary symbol, maintaining a connection to the ancient tradition of healing that extends back thousands of years. The Hippocratic Oath, traditionally attributed to the ancient Greek physician Hippocrates, who lived in the 5th century before the Common Era, established ethical principles for medical practice that remain influential today. The oath includes promises to do no harm, to maintain patient confidentiality, to teach medical knowledge to the next generation, and to recognize the limits of medical skill. These principles reflect the wisdom embedded in the myth of Asclepius, the understanding that healing is a sacred responsibility requiring both technical skill and ethical judgment. The constellation Serpens, observed through binoculars or a small telescope from a dark sky location, reveals numerous treasures beyond the prominent stars. Double stars, variable stars, star clusters, nebulae, and galaxies populate this region of sky. The Eagle Nebula, though too faint for visual observation except through large telescopes, can be photographed by amateur astronomers equipped with cameras and moderate telescopes, revealing structure and color invisible to the human eye. Messier 5, the globular cluster, shows a dense concentration of ancient stars that challenge the imagination, a spherical swarm of suns bound together for billions of years. The experience of observing these objects, of pointing a telescope at coordinates, and finding that ancient stars or distant galaxies actually appear in the eyepiece, provides a direct connection to the cosmos that no photograph or video can fully replace. The photons entering your eye from these distant objects have traveled across space for years or centuries or millennia, carrying information encoded in their wavelengths and intensities. When you observe a star or galaxy, you participate directly in the universe, receiving light that has journeyed across incomprehensible distances to reach you at this particular moment. This direct observational experience connects contemporary amateur astronomers to the long tradition of skywatching that extends throughout human history. While modern observers have advantages of telescopes, star charts, and knowledge of celestial mechanics that ancient observers lacked, the fundamental act of looking upward and contemplating the cosmos remains unchanged. The stars that we see tonight are the same stars that ancient Babylonians, Greeks, Arabs, and countless other peoples observed, their patterns serving as a shared human heritage that transcends cultural and temporal boundaries. The Serpent constellation, divided yet unified, separated yet connected through the figure of the healer, serves as a metaphor for many aspects of existence. We are all divided yet unified, individuals yet part of larger communities, separate entities yet connected through countless relationships and dependencies. The serpent's dual nature, dangerous yet wise, poisonous yet healing, reflects the ambiguities and complexities that characterize real life, where simple categories and clear distinctions often fail to capture the truth of situations. The process of transformation symbolized by the serpent's shedding of its skin resonates with human experiences of change and growth. We are not static beings, but constantly changing, constantly becoming something other than what we were. The cells in our bodies are continuously replaced, our thoughts and beliefs evolve with experience, our relationships and circumstances change over time. Identity itself is perhaps best understood not as a fixed essence, but as a continuous process of becoming, a pattern that persists through time while the specific content constantly changes. This recognition of impermanence and constant transformation, central to Buddhist philosophy and appearing in various forms throughout world wisdom traditions, can be either disturbing or liberating depending on how we relate to it. If we cling to permanence, if we insist that things should remain as they are, we set ourselves up for suffering as inevitable change occurs. If we can accept and even embrace change, if we can understand transformation as the fundamental nature of existence rather than as a deviation from some ideal static state, we may find greater peace and flexibility in navigating life's challenges. The constellation Serpens, observed on a summer evening as it arcs across the southern sky, invites these contemplations. The faint stars that trace the serpent's form, the rich star fields of the Milky Way providing background, the deep sky objects containing their own stories of stellar birth and galactic evolution, all contribute to a sense of the cosmos as vast, ancient, dynamic, and ultimately mysterious despite all that science has revealed. We have learned an enormous amount about the physical nature of stars, galaxies, and the universe as a whole, yet fundamental questions remain unanswered and perhaps unanswerable. What caused the Big Bang? What existed before it, if the question even makes sense when time itself began with the Big Bang? Why does the universe have the particular physical laws and constants it has rather than different ones? Is our universe unique, or one among countless universes in a vast multiverse? How common is life in the universe, and how common is intelligent, technological life? Are we alone, or does consciousness exist elsewhere, contemplating similar questions from utterly different perspectives shaped by different evolutionary histories and environmental contexts? These profound questions about existence, causation, and consciousness extend beyond current scientific answers while remaining connected to scientific investigation. The methodology of science, with its emphasis on empirical observation, mathematical modeling, and experimental testing, has proven extraordinarily successful at revealing the workings of nature. Yet science operates within certain limits, addressing questions that can be answered through observation and experiment, while remaining silent on questions of ultimate meaning, purpose, and value. The constellation Serpens, with its mythological associations and astronomical reality, demonstrates the complementary nature of different ways of engaging with the cosmos. The scientific understanding of the stars as nuclear furnaces, of nebulae as star-forming regions, of galaxies as vast collections of billions of stars, provides one kind of knowledge, precise and empirically grounded. The mythological understanding of the serpent as symbol of wisdom and healing, of transformation and duality, provides another kind of knowledge, addressing meaning and human concerns in ways that scientific language does not fully capture. These different forms of knowledge need not be seen as competing but rather as complementary, each offering insights that the others cannot provide. The astronomer studying star formation in the Eagle Nebula and the philosopher contemplating the symbolism of serpents in world mythology are both engaged in meaningful human activities, both contributing to our collective understanding of existence. The integration of these different ways of knowing, the ability to appreciate both the measurable and the meaningful, both the factual and the symbolic, represents a mature and comprehensive relationship with reality. As night deepens and the constellation Serpens reaches its highest point in the southern sky, the serpent wound through the hands of Ophiuchus the healer, we can reflect on the long journey of this pattern through human consciousness. From ancient Babylon, where goatfish creatures and serpent deities populated both sky and mythology, through classical Greece, where Asclepius became the divine physician, whose serpent symbolized healing wisdom, through medieval Islamic astronomy, where precise observations refined the positions and descriptions of celestial objects, through the scientific revolution when telescopes revealed the physical nature of stars and the vastness of the cosmos, to the present day when space-based observatories image star-forming regions in unprecedented detail and exoplanet discoveries reveal the diversity of worlds orbiting distant suns. Throughout this long history, the constellation itself has remained essentially unchanged in appearance, the same pattern of stars visible to every generation of observers. Yet the meanings attributed to this pattern, the stories told about it, the scientific understanding of its components have evolved continuously. The stars remain constant while human understanding transforms, demonstrating that the cosmos provides a stable frame of reference against which we can measure our own changing perspectives and growing knowledge. The serpent swimming through celestial waters, divided yet whole, dangerous yet wise, mortal yet symbolizing immortality through its capacity for renewal, speaks to the complexities and paradoxes of existence. In the symbol of the serpent, we find represented the duality of nature itself, the way that life feeds on life, that creation and destruction are intertwined, that growth requires change and change involves loss. The serpent does not offer simple answers or comfortable certainties, but rather invites us to contemplate the deeper patterns underlying surface appearances, to seek wisdom that integrates rather than divides, to accept complexity and ambiguity as fundamental features of reality rather than as problems to be eliminated. The healing tradition associated with Asclepius and his serpent emphasizes the integration of body and spirit, of physical treatment and psychological support, of technical skill and compassionate presence. The ancient Asclepia, those temple healing centers, combined religious ritual with practical medicine, recognizing that healing involves the whole person, not just the disease or injury. Modern medicine has sometimes lost this holistic perspective in its focus on biological mechanisms and technological interventions, yet there is growing recognition that effective healing requires attention to psychological, social, and even spiritual dimensions of health and illness. The serpent coiled around the staff, rising upward, can be understood as representing the integration of earthly and transcendent, of physical and spiritual, of the healing of bodies and the healing of souls. The physician stands between patient and death, between suffering and relief, using knowledge and skill to intervene in natural processes toward desired ends. This intermediary position, this role of mediator between different states, mirrors the liminal nature of the serpent itself, the creature that inhabits boundaries between realms, that embodies transformation and passage from one state to another. The practice of medicine, from ancient times to the present, has always involved both science and art, both technical knowledge and human judgment, both empirical understanding and intuitive wisdom. The physician must know the body's anatomy and physiology, must understand disease processes and treatment mechanisms, must master diagnostic techniques and therapeutic interventions. Yet the physician must also understand the individual patient, must recognize that identical diseases manifest differently in different people, must consider psychological and social factors that influence health outcomes, must make decisions under uncertainty with incomplete information. This integration of objective knowledge and subjective understanding, of universal principles and particular circumstances, represents the art of medicine that complements its scientific foundation. The constellation Serpens, observed over the course of a night, demonstrates the apparent rotation of the celestial sphere caused by Earth's spin on its axis. The serpent rises in the east during evening hours, arcs across the southern sky reaching its highest point around midnight, then descends toward the western horizon before dawn. This daily motion, shared by all celestial objects, reflects our planet's rotation at approximately 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, a speed we do not feel because we are moving along with Earth's surface, because the atmosphere rotates with the planet. Because everything in our immediate environment shares this motion, this disconnect between appearance and reality, between what we directly perceive and what actually occurs, characterizes many aspects of our relationship with the cosmos. The ground beneath our feet seems stationary, yet we are spinning with Earth's rotation, orbiting the Sun at approximately 67,000 miles per hour, moving with the Sun's orbit around the galactic center at approximately 500,000 miles per hour, participating in the Milky Way's motion through space relative to other galaxies. All of this motion occurs without our awareness, revealed only through careful observation and mathematical analysis. The development of human understanding of these cosmic motions represents one of the great intellectual achievements of our species. Early astronomers noticed regularities in celestial motions and created models to predict planetary positions, eclipse timings, and seasonal changes. These models became increasingly sophisticated over centuries, incorporating more observations and more complex mathematical techniques. The realization that Earth itself moves, that we are not stationary observers at the center of the universe, but passengers on a planet orbiting a star in a galaxy moving through space, required overcoming powerful intuitions and psychological resistances. The Copernican revolution, the shift from geocentric to heliocentric cosmology, represented not just a technical advancement in astronomy, but a fundamental reorientation of humanity's place in the cosmos. We were displaced from the center, our planet revealed as one world among many, our sun as one star among billions. This displacement, sometimes called the Copernican principle, has continued through subsequent discoveries. Our galaxy is one among hundreds of billions of galaxies. Our location within our galaxy is unremarkable, in a spiral arm about halfway out from the center. There appears to be nothing special about our cosmic position, nothing that marks us as central or privileged in any physical sense. Yet, this very ordinariness suggests an extraordinary implication. If our location and our planet are typical rather than unique, if the physical processes that led to life's emergence on Earth are common natural phenomena rather than singular miracles, then life might be widespread in the universe. The same chemistry and physics operates everywhere. The same elements exist throughout the cosmos. Planetary systems appear common around other stars. The possibility that we are not alone, that consciousness and intelligence have emerged elsewhere in the vast universe, has profound implications for how we understand ourselves and our significance. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, conducted through radio telescope surveys and other methods, has so far yielded no confirmed detections. The famous Fermi paradox asks why, if life and intelligence are common, we see no evidence of other civilizations despite searching. Various solutions to this paradox have been proposed, from life being rarer than we think, to technological civilizations being short-lived, to advanced civilizations deliberately avoiding contact, to the vast distances between stars making detection extremely difficult. The question remains open, one of the great mysteries of our age. The constellation Serpens, with its thousands of stars potentially hosting planetary systems, might harbor worlds where life has emerged and evolved, where beings very different from us contemplate their own skies and ask their own questions about existence and meaning. These hypothetical beings would not see our constellation patterns, would have created entirely different figures from their own perspective, would have told different stories shaped by their own evolutionary history and cultural development. Yet they might share with us the fundamental impulse to find pattern and meaning in the cosmos, to seek understanding of the nature of reality, to wonder about their place in the vastness of space and time. This possibility of cosmic companionship, of other minds pondering similar questions from vastly different contexts, expands our conception of intelligence and consciousness beyond the narrow range of human experience. If life is common, it likely takes forms radically different from anything we know on Earth. Different chemistries, different solvents than water, different energy sources, different environmental conditions, all might give rise to forms of life we would have difficulty recognizing as living. Intelligence itself might manifest in ways utterly unlike human cognition, shaped by different evolutionary pressures and opportunities. These speculations about alien life and intelligence, while scientifically grounded in our growing understanding of planetary systems and the chemistry of life, also represent a contemporary form of the ancient human practice of imagining beings different from ourselves. The gods and monsters of mythology, the angels and demons of religious tradition, the fairies and spirits of folklore, all represent attempts to populate the cosmos with other forms of consciousness, other perspectives on existence. The scientific search for extraterrestrial life transforms this ancient impulse into an empirical investigation, using telescopes and spacecraft rather than imagination alone, yet motivated by similar questions about whether we are alone in the universe. The serpent in world mythology often represents contact with something other than human, something that exists at the boundaries of the human world. The serpent in Eden speaks to humanity, offering knowledge and temptation. The serpents at Asclepius's temples mediate between human suffering and divine healing. The Nagas of Hindu and Buddhist tradition guard treasures and secret knowledge. The feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl of Mesoamerican tradition brings civilization and culture to humanity. These mythological serpents serve as intermediaries, connecting different realms of existence, facilitating transformations and transmissions of knowledge. In this symbolic role, the serpent relates to the shamanic tradition found in many indigenous cultures, where certain individuals serve as intermediaries between the human community and the spirit world. Shamans undergo transformative experiences, often described as death and rebirth, gaining the ability to travel between worlds and to bring back healing, knowledge, and power. The serpent, with its ability to shed its skin and emerge renewed, with its capacity to move between earth and water, with its association with both poison and cure, becomes a natural symbol for this shamanic role and for the transformative experiences that grant access to non-ordinary states of consciousness. The modern scientific understanding of the brain and consciousness has revealed that our ordinary waking awareness represents just one mode of brain functioning, that altered states of consciousness can be induced through various means including meditation, sensory deprivation, psychoactive substances, intense physical exertion, or spontaneous neurological events. These altered states sometimes involve profound experiences of unity, transcendence, dissolution of ego boundaries, and access to intuitive insights that feel deeply meaningful even if they do not translate easily into ordinary language. The relationship between these subjective experiences and objective brain states remains an active area of neuroscientific and philosophical investigation. The constellation Serpens, observed in the quiet darkness of a summer night far from city lights, can facilitate a meditative state of consciousness. The act of sky gazing, of allowing the eyes to adapt to darkness and the mind to quiet, of contemplating patterns of stars that have remained essentially unchanged throughout human history, creates conditions conducive to reflection and expanded awareness. The vastness of space and time represented by those faint points of light, each a distant sun possibly illuminating its own worlds, invites a perspective that transcends ordinary concerns and immediate circumstances. This contemplative engagement with the night sky represents one of the oldest human spiritual practices, predating organized religion and perhaps even language itself. Our prehistoric ancestors surely looked up at the stars and wondered, felt awe and curiosity, sought to understand their place in the cosmos. The capacity for this kind of contemplation, for stepping back from immediate survival concerns to ponder existence itself, marks a crucial development in human consciousness. When we gaze at the stars tonight, we participate in this ancient practice, connecting ourselves to countless generations who have done the same. The seasonal progression of constellations, the way different star patterns dominate the sky at different times of year, provided ancient peoples with a celestial calendar that regulated agricultural activities, religious festivals, and social rhythms. The appearance of serpens in the evening sky during summer months signaled specific times in the annual cycle, times associated with particular agricultural tasks or ritual observances. This integration of celestial observation with earthly activities demonstrates how astronomy served both practical and spiritual functions in ancient societies, how the sky and earth were understood as intimately connected rather than separate realms. The modern disconnection from the night sky, caused by light pollution and indoor lifestyles, represents a real loss of this ancient connection to cosmic rhythms. Many people today go through their entire lives never experiencing a truly dark sky, never seeing the Milky Way or more than a handful of the brightest stars. This disconnection from the natural night environment affects not only cultural transmission of astronomical knowledge, but possibly even psychological and spiritual well-being. Exposure to natural darkness and to the night sky may serve important functions in human consciousness that we are only beginning to understand and appreciate. Efforts to preserve dark sky areas and to reduce light pollution have gained momentum in recent decades, driven by recognition that the night sky represents a natural and cultural resource worth protecting. Organizations like the International Dark Sky Association work to promote awareness of light pollution's impacts on astronomy, ecology, energy consumption, and human health. They work with communities to implement better lighting practices that provide necessary illumination while reducing sky glow, glare, and light trespass. Dark sky parks and reserves have been established in various locations, offering opportunities for people to experience natural darkness and observe the full splendor of the night sky. When viewed from a truly dark location, the constellation Serpens reveals far more than is visible from urban or suburban areas. The faint stars that fill in the serpent's form become visible, creating a more complete picture of the constellation's traditional shape. The Milky Way background, flowing through this region of sky, shows structure and variation with darker lanes of obscuring dust and brighter regions of concentrated stars. The globular cluster Messier 5 appears as a distinct fuzzy patch, even to the naked eye, while binoculars reveal its concentrated glow and telescopes resolve it into countless individual stars. The experience of observing under dark skies, of seeing what ancient peoples saw every clear night, provides perspective on how our relationship with the cosmos has changed. The night sky that was once a constant presence in human life, a familiar landscape revisited nightly, has become rare and special for most modern people. The constellations that every member of ancient societies knew from childhood now require deliberate effort to learn. This transformation in our relationship with the night sky reflects broader changes in how we live, the increasing dominance of artificial environments and technologies that mediate our experience of the natural world. Yet the desire to connect with the cosmos, to understand our place in the vastness of space and time, remains a fundamental human characteristic. The popularity of astronomy as a hobby, the public enthusiasm for space missions and astronomical discoveries, the enduring fascination with questions about alien life and the origin of the universe, all demonstrate that cosmic curiosity persists despite our changed circumstances. We may not depend on the stars for navigation or calendar keeping as ancient peoples did, but we still seek meaning and wonder in contemplating the heavens. The Serpent constellation, divided yet unified, offers a visual metaphor for many aspects of contemporary existence. We live in a world increasingly connected by communication technologies, yet often feeling fragmented and divided. We have access to more information than any previous generation, yet struggle to synthesize it into coherent understanding. We are aware of global interconnections, yet often feel isolated and alone. The Serpent, separated into head and tail yet remaining a single constellation, suggests that apparent divisions can coexist with underlying unity, that separation and connection are not opposites but complementary aspects of reality. The figure of Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer who holds the divided serpent and unifies it through his presence, might represent the integrative function of consciousness itself. Human consciousness unifies diverse sensory inputs, memories, thoughts and emotions into a coherent experience of self and world. The brain integrates information from multiple sources, creates models of reality that go far beyond immediate sensory input, generates the sense of a continuous self persisting through time despite constant change. This integrative function, this creation of unity from multiplicity, parallels the mythological function of the healer who brings together body and spirit, patient and cure, suffering and relief. The healing arts, whether traditional or modern, share the goal of restoring wholeness to what has become fragmented or dysfunctional. Disease disrupts the body's integrated functioning, creates disharmony and suffering, threatens the integrity of the organism. Healing interventions, whether pharmaceutical, surgical, psychological, or spiritual, aim to restore balance and proper functioning, to reunify what disease has disrupted. The serpent held by the healer symbolizes this process of restoration and integration, the bringing together of what has been divided, the transformation of disease back into health. As the night progresses and the constellation Serpens moves westward toward the horizon, eventually to set in the pre-dawn hours and make way for the approaching sun, we can reflect on the cyclical nature of existence that the serpent symbolizes. Day follows day in an endless cycle. The seasons progress from spring through summer, autumn, and winter, then return to spring again. Life emerges, grows, reproduces, ages, dies, and gives rise to new life. Stars are born from molecular clouds, shine for millions or billions of years, then die and return their matter to space where it becomes material for new stars. Galaxies form, evolve, merge with others, transform over cosmic time. These cycles, operating at scales from daily to cosmic, from the rotation of Earth to the evolution of the universe, create the rhythmic patterns that structure existence. The recognition and acceptance of cyclical change, the understanding that endings enable new beginnings, that death is necessary for life, that transformation rather than static permanence characterizes reality, represents a form of wisdom that many spiritual traditions emphasize. The serpent, shedding its skin to emerge renewed, embodies this wisdom of necessary change, of letting go what has been to make room for what will be. The scientific understanding of cosmic evolution, from the Big Bang through the formation of galaxies, stars, and planets, to the emergence of life and consciousness, reveals a universe that is fundamentally creative and dynamic. The early universe was simple, containing only the lightest elements and consisting of hot plasma gradually cooling and condensing. Over billions of years, through gravitational collapse, nuclear fusion, supernova explosions, and countless other processes, the universe has become increasingly complex, generating heavier elements, structured objects like stars and galaxies, and eventually conditions where life could emerge and evolve. This cosmic creativity, this tendency toward increasing complexity and organization despite entropy's overall increase, suggests that the universe is not running down toward a featureless heat death, at least not in any simple or immediate sense. Local pockets of order and complexity can emerge and persist even as overall entropy increases, because entropy is a statistical rather than absolute principle. The emergence of life and consciousness represents the universe's most remarkable creative achievement that we know of, the development of systems capable of self-replication, adaptation, and eventually self-awareness. The constellation Serpens, containing regions of active star formation like the Eagle Nebula, exemplifies this ongoing cosmic creativity. New stars are being born continuously throughout our galaxy and throughout the universe, emerging from molecular clouds, beginning their lives of nuclear fusion, potentially developing planetary systems where new worlds take shape. This process has been occurring for billions of years and will continue for billions more, until the available gas and dust are exhausted or dispersed and star formation gradually ceases. The universe remains young and dynamic, still in its formative stages by some measures, with most of cosmic history still ahead. The question of what consciousness means in this cosmic context, whether awareness and intelligence represent common features of cosmic evolution or rare accidents, whether mind is fundamental or emergent, remains debated by philosophers and scientists. Materialist perspectives hold that consciousness emerges from complex physical systems like brains, that mental states are identical with or supervene upon brain states, that no non-physical soul or mind stuff is needed to explain awareness. Dualist and idealist perspectives maintain that consciousness is not reducible to physical processes, that mental phenomena have properties fundamentally different from physical phenomena, that subjective experience cannot be fully explained in objective physical terms. These deep philosophical questions about the nature of consciousness and its place in the universe connect to the mythological themes associated with the serpent. The serpent often represents hidden knowledge, secret wisdom, access to truths not available through ordinary means. In the Garden of Eden, the serpent offers knowledge of good and evil, knowledge that transforms human consciousness and separates us from innocent animal awareness. In the Asclepius myth, the serpent provides medical knowledge, understanding of the processes of life and death that enables healing intervention. In Kundalini Yoga, the serpent represents latent spiritual energy that when awakened brings enlightened consciousness. These mythological treatments of the serpent as conveyor of transformative knowledge might be understood as symbolic representations of the fact that consciousness itself is transformative, that awareness changes the nature of existence in fundamental ways. A universe with consciousness is fundamentally different from a universe without it, not just because consciousness observes the universe, but because consciousness creates meaning, value, purpose, beauty, suffering. These qualitative features of experience, what philosophers call qualia, seem to have no place in the objective descriptions of physics, yet are the most immediate and undeniable aspects of our existence. The hard problem of consciousness, as philosopher David Chalmers termed it, asks why and how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experience, why there is something it feels like to be conscious rather than all the processing occurring without awareness. This problem remains unsolved despite remarkable progress in neuroscience's understanding of brain function. We can map the neural correlates of consciousness, identify which brain regions and processes are associated with different aspects of awareness, yet the gap between objective neural activity and subjective experience remains unbridged. The constellation Serpens, observed in silent contemplation on a dark summer night, invites reflection on these mysteries of consciousness and existence. The act of awareness itself, of being present to the experience of looking up at ancient starlight, of feeling wonder and curiosity, of contemplating questions about meaning and purpose, demonstrates consciousness in operation even as it remains fundamentally mysterious. We are aware that we are aware, conscious of our own consciousness, able to examine and reflect upon our own mental processes. This recursive self-awareness, this capacity for metacognition, represents a distinctive feature of human consciousness, though whether it is unique to humans or shared with other species remains debated. As sleep approaches and the night deepens, as the constellation Serpens continues its arc across the sky following the apparent rotation of the celestial sphere, we can rest in the knowledge that the cosmos continues its ancient patterns regardless of human awareness or understanding. The stars will rise and set tonight as they have for billions of years, The universe will expand and evolve according to physical laws that operated long before consciousness emerged and will continue long after any particular conscious beings have passed. Yet consciousness, for all its apparent insignificance in the vastness of space and time, transforms the universe from mere physical process into experienced reality, from objective fact into subjective meaning. The serpent swimming through celestial waters, held by the healer, divided yet whole, poisonous yet curative, earthly yet cosmic, embodies these paradoxes and mysteries that characterize existence. The constellation serves as a reminder that reality is more complex than simple categories capture, that wisdom requires embracing ambiguity and paradox, that transformation is constant and renewal possible, that knowledge and consciousness themselves are powerful forces that shape how we engage with the universe and with each other. The ancient symbol continues to speak to contemporary experience, demonstrating that mythology and science, narrative and analysis, poetic imagination and empirical observation all contribute to human understanding and to our ongoing conversation with the cosmos. In the quiet darkness, under the watchful gaze of countless stars, the Serpent constellation wins its way across the southern sky, eternal in appearance yet composed of stars following their own evolutionary journeys, unified in human imagination yet divided in space. A pattern recognized for millennia, yet always available to be discovered anew by each observer who takes time to look up and wonder. The light from these stars, traveling across space for decades or centuries, arrives at this moment to enter our awareness, carrying information about distant suns and inviting contemplation of our place in the vast cosmic story. The serpent reminds us that we too are divided yet whole, mortal yet connected to something eternal, small yet capable of comprehending vastness, separate yet part of an interconnected universe where everything influences everything else across space and time. As consciousness releases its grasp and sleep begins its gentle descent, the image of the cosmic serpent can accompany us into dreams, representing transformation and renewal, wisdom and healing, the shedding of what has been and the emergence of what will be. The stars continue their ancient dance, the universe expands and evolves, consciousness arises and contemplates existence, and the great mystery of being unfolds moment by moment, eternal and ever-changing, comprehensible yet ultimately ineffable, scientific yet spiritual, material yet meaningful. The serpent swims on through celestial seas, divided yet unified, dangerous yet wise, mortal yet immortal in symbol and story, inviting us to embrace the paradoxes of existence and to find peace in the acceptance of mystery, transformation, and the endless cycles of cosmic creativity that gave rise to stars, planets, life, and the remarkable phenomenon of consciousness contemplating its own nature and place in the vastness of space and time.